Good morning, friends. We have already covered almost two-thirds of the syllabus. The last class will be on 20th of April. As a result, we will have 9 classes, primarily on the following topics. The first topic will be about Karl Marx. As you know, I have been referring to all the thinkers in almost all the classes, but 3 more lectures on Karl Marx, 3 lectures on concept of power and morality in Marx, Weber and Durkheim, and then 3 lectures on Max Weber. For example, first lecture will be on Weberian theory of vocation and the nature of market in contemporary society. And then 2 lectures on Weberian concept of Protestant ethics versus Durkheimian concept of professional ethics and civic morals. Now, the central concept in my 3 lectures on Karl Marx will be base and superstructure, and primarily I will be dealing with one book, Das Kapital, originally published in 1867, but I will primarily refer to the English translations. There are 2 English translations of Capital, one from Penguin Books, which had a very long introduction by Ernest Mendel. I think some of you are familiar with the name. He is a very important Marxist economist, and some people regard his book Late Capitalism as a natural complementary to Das Kapital, that is Capital Volume 1. Then there is another translation of Karl Marx Das Kapital. It is from Oxford University Press, and it has an introduction by MacLennan, again a very important Marxist theorist of social sciences. But since your end semester is coming very near, and in all the 4 courses you will have at best 9 classes each. Therefore, let me give you a very brief introduction of what we expect from theoretical point of view in each of the 4 courses. which you are attending in this semester. For example, in methodology of social sciences, there is a centrality of Max Weber and Emile Durkheim, and Karl Marx is a marginal theorist in this course. Secondly, in a stratification, Karl Marx and Max Weber are major theorists, and Durkheim is a marginal theorist in the course on a stratification. Third, in your course on state and society in India, Max Weber and Karl Marx are foundational theorists. Now, you see that I am using foundational theorist and not major theorist because you are primarily not taught Max Weber and Karl Marx directly. Rather, you are taught Weberian theory of a state and society in India or Marxist theory of a state and society in India. And in this course on a state and society in India, Durkheim is a minor theorist. You are not taught, or you are not supposed to be taught, Emile Durkheim's view about the state and society in India. To you people, that is the first semester students. Now, I am not saying that the other courses which you will be reading in second, third, and fourth semesters, these theorists are not important. They are. For example, in the course on family and kinship in India, Emile Durkheim is the major theorist, and his disciples like Claude Lévi-Strauss, A.R. Redley Brown, Marcel Mauss, then also people like David Snyder, and their Indian, chelas or disciples are the major theorists. Whereas Marx is very, very marginal in that course which you will read in second or third semester on family and marriage in India. In the same way, there is a course on religion and society in India. In that course, Emile Durkheim is the major theorist, foundational theorist, and Max Weber is the complementary theorist. As in family and kinship in India, you have Emile Durkheim and to some extent indirectly, not directly, when they deal with the feminist theory of marriage and family, they bring in a synthesis of Karl Marx and the feminist theories. In the same way, in the course on religion and society in India, you have primarily Emile Durkheim and Max Weber, and Marx is a minor theorist in religion and society in India course. Although some references will be given to you, and they may be referred. They are not Marxist theories as such, but you can club them as neo-Marxist or critical theorist. Now, in critical theory, there are three major foundational thinkers: Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, and Max Weber. Now, there is again a course which you will be taught in third or fourth semester. These are not fixed courses, Every year faculty decides which course will be taught to which batch. That is titled Economy and Society in India. In that course, Max Weber is the foundational theorist, followed by Karl Marx, and Emile Durkheim is a minor theorist. In contrast, in this course which I am teaching to you, sociological thinkers, all three thinkers are important, but as you have seen in other courses, in this course also there is, some disparity between importance. And so far as I know, in this course on sociological thinkers, Emile Durkheim is the nucleus around which theories of Marx and Weber are articulated anywhere in the world after the global stagflation of September 2007 and 8. Now, this I am telling you on the basis of my knowledge of different syllabuses around the world. But I am sure when the corona pandemic is no more as dreaded as it is today, the new courses on sociological thinkers will be designed, and in that also Emile Durkheim will have upper hand than Marx and Weber, because of the obvious reason which you have already read in the earlier classes. Now let us take the book Capital Volume 1, and at the moment I am relying more on the Penguin Classics, 3 volumes of Capital, but primarily to the first semester students we teach only Capital Volume 1, and then economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1840s. Now, I have already dealt with economic and philosophical manuscript. There are 2 dates. In French, it was published in 1844, and the English translation came in 1848. Now, let us see what is central in Capital Volume 1. I'll give some points because I have to give 3 lectures on the concept of base and superstructure in Karl Marx. Now, in your undergraduate courses, in case you have been a sociology student, you must have been taught that base and superstructure deals with the materialist interpretation of history. But in your postgraduate course, which you are attending at the moment, the reference is not so much on materialist interpretation of history, rather the reference is to a theory of society inclusive of economy, polity, culture, family, etc. Therefore, as I said, Capital Volume 1 becomes a foundational book of Karl Marx, like Economy and Society of Max Weber is a foundational book in this course, and at least 3 books of Durkheim are foundational. Division of Labor in Society, Suicide, and Professional Ethics and Civic Morals. Now, what about other books? Rules of Sociological Method is primarily covered in Methodology of Social Sciences. In the same way, we teach Economy and Society in this course, and Methodology of Social Sciences by Max Weber is taught in the other course of methodology and social sciences. Uh, in the same way, in political sociology, Max Weber's articles included in From Max Weber, edited by Garth and Mills, is taught. And in this course also we deal with two vocational lectures from the book From Max Weber. But we more rely on a small book posthumously published and made popular in English language, called Basic Concepts of Sociology. But Basic Concepts of Sociology or From Max Weber, these are secondary or supplementary books. The foundational book is Economy and Society by Max Weber. Although that book is very big, 2-volume book, and both books are around 600 pages, therefore 1200 plus pages. It is not expected that any student will be able to read the full book. Therefore, primarily you have to rely on the class lecture, and then you can refer to the readings referred in the course outline. In the same way, I said about Ismail Durkheim that he has written many books. We are not dealing with elementary forms of religious life in the same way in which we dealt with the suicide or the division of labor in society, or we will be dealing with professional ethics and civic morals. The reason is simple. In the other course on religion and society in India, you will be taught that course in a much more substantive way. Now let us come to the Capital Volume 1, and here I am primarily giving you 5 points which Ernst Mandel has outlined in the introduction of the same book, which is published by the Penguin. And the 5 points are the following. Once we deal with the 5 points, then we will come to the text of the book. Now, the first point which I'm really sorry, Ernst Mandel has outlined for us is that what Marx's Capital explained was, above all, the ruthless and irresistible impulse to growth which characterized production for private profit and the predominant use of profit for capital accumulation. First, I will explain, these 5 points, and then it will be clear to you. But before I explain, let me read out the 5 points. The second point is that the concentration of wealth and power in a small number of giant industrial and financial corporations had brought with it an increasing universal struggle between capital and labor. The third point is that Marx is much more an economist of the 20th century than of the 19th. Today, Western world is much nearer to the pure model of capital than was the world in which this book was composed. Fourth point, in Capital, Marx's fundamental aim was to lay bare the laws of motion which govern the origins, the rise, the development, the decline, and the disappearance of a given social form of economic organization. Fifth, he was not seeking the universal laws of economic organization. In Capital Volume 1, there is no such laws, directly or indirectly. These are 5 major points which Ernst Mandel had emphasized in his introduction to the English translation of Capital Volume 1, published by Penguin Books. Now, let us take the third point first for further elaboration or explanation. Mandel is saying that Marx is much more an economist of the 20th century than of the 19th. Now, what does he emphasize? Please remember that Marx was a theorist, philosopher, political economist, and economic historian of 19th century. He had died in 1883 and he published only one book in his lifetime, that was Capital Volume 1, and it was published in 1867. Before that, there was only one publication, that was Manifesto of the Communist Party, which is known as the Communist Manifesto. But it was not written by Marx alone. It was written as a political pamphlet for mobilizing the French people for a revolution in 1848, and it was a joint work of Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. Now, the mature Marx or later Marx does not regard that book, the Communist Manifesto, as a you know as a writing which he would be proud of. Therefore, in the letters which Karl Marx wrote to his friends and some of the distant relatives, and also his wife, he refers and emphasizes that I have published only one book, Das Kapital in German, published in 1867, and I have inspired some books written by Friedrich Engels, but these are writings of Friedrich Engels. For example, it is said by Friedrich Engels in the preface to a book which he wrote, The Origin of Family, Private Property and the State, that it was Karl Marx's idea that I should write this book. Now, why? Friedrich Engels said that Marx read a book called Ancient Society, written by an American anthropologist, Louis Henry Morgan. Now, Louis Henry Morgan, or sometimes Louis Henry Morgan, wrote two books, but Marx had read only the first book, Ancient Society, and he was so much thrilled that he suggested his friend and collaborator, Friedrich Engels, that since I have read the manuscript, which is not published until now, because the American establishment had banned the manuscript of Morgan and said that any publisher which will publish this book will be liable to penal action. He or she, the publisher, will be punished. Therefore, although America claims today that it is the moral guardian of freedom of expression and liberal democracy, but American history, even after independence from the British, British suzerainty, was not a very glorious history. They have been banning books, and their laws were not very, very democratic, particularly for the non-Anglo-Saxon citizens of United States of America, primarily the Red Indians or the blacks, which had African origin. And they have also not been nice to the Mongoloids of Asia, and they were also not very, very comfortable with two authors, Charles Darwin. Although today they will not concede it, but until 1980s, the Christian lobby in United States had banned Origin of Species of Charles Darwin as a book or textbook which can be used in a school curriculum in United States. In other words, they were still teaching until 1980s that man evolved on earth on the lines it is written in the Old Testament, the common book of the Abrahamic religions like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. The second book which they had banned was that of Louis Henry Morgan's Ancient Society. Later on, through the intervention of people like Thomas Paine, Karl Marx, and Emerson, many people, there is some moderation, but still there is a fact, historical fact, social fact, which cannot be denied, that in almost 200 years history of United States of America, only 2 presidents were non-Protestants. In other words, 99.9% of American presidents have been from one religious denomination. And what is that? That is Protestant Christianity, primarily represented by Benjamin Franklin, whom Max Weber, regards as the foundational thinker of capitalism. Now, when I was teaching earlier, some of you must have regarded me as anti-Weberian. When I was teaching Marxist concept of man, some of you must be thinking that I am not, a Marxist. Of course, I am neither a Weberian nor a Marxist nor a Durkheimian. As I said, I am a Buddhist sociologist and I am neutral to all the three. But what is interesting is that Karl Marx was much more truthful when he was narrating the story of rise of capitalism and economic phenomena. Whereas Max Weber's contribution is important. I do not deny that now. But it is important as a data, not as a theory. I, of course, read Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, including its criticism by his contemporary, Max Weber's contemporaries, and also my contemporaries. But I do think that Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism is a book of political sociology and not of economic sociology. Therefore, I deal with Max Weber when I deal with the concept of market and the concept of vocation in contemporary society. Whereas, the Parsonians, Parsons himself and his disciples anywhere in the world, they regard Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism as a foundational book, which is very important to understand the economic phenomena or social phenomena of, the capitalist mode of production. I told you that from the time Max Weber started writing about society. Earlier, he was writing about engineering, he was writing about politics, he was not, academic political sociology, but he was a politician and he was writing political comments, he was making manifestos, he was making manuals for political reforms, he was writing about law, economic history of the world. As academic theorist, he spent only last 20 years of his life. When he died in 1920. Therefore, it is around the 20th century, that is after, the year 1900, that Max Weber took, some sort of retirement from active politics. He was also not keeping good health throughout his adult life. And once he decided that now enough is enough, I must concentrate my energy in academic writing, and I should not participate in politics, or I should not be part of political or legal activism. Then he started working on economy and society. And Economy and Society is not only a book of economic sociology. This is a substantive book on the theory of society, as Capital Volume 1 is a book on the theory of society, and it includes almost every aspect of society, like Capital Volume 1. I am talking about economic and society. But what is striking is that, unlike the claim made by Talcott Parsons and his disciples, there is no empirical evidence to validate or, verify the Parsonian theory superimposed on, the working papers of Max Weber for writing his magnum opus, Economy and Society. It cannot be said that it was a Protestant ethic which led to the growth of capitalism in Western Europe or United States of America. But what can be said emphatically is that Protestant theology of John Calvin and popularly interpreted for the masses by Benjamin Franklin is a terribly important book. The original book, John Calvin's commentary on the Bible, and its popular introduction, or rather populist interpretation for the common Protestants in the United States of America by Benjamin Franklin. Therefore, although Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism was not a book which Max Weber wrote for publication. Rather, these are his unfinished manuscripts which he was preparing for writing the book called Economy and Society. Unfortunately, the publication of the book Economy and Society could not take place during the lifetime of Max Weber. And this book, Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, was published during the time of Max Weber. And although it was the initiative of Talcott Parsons and not Max Weber, but this is a fact that when the manuscript came to the eyes of Max Weber, he did not decided to protest against it. Are you getting the point? Now, why he did not protested is a question. As big as why Mahatma Gandhi selected Jawaharlal Nehru as his successor, or as big as why Anna movement led to marginalization of Anna Hazare and emergence of Arvind Kejriwal, or why Vladimir Putin became the beneficiary of glasnost initiated by Mikhail Gorbachev in Soviet Union, but indirectly supported by the CIA of United States of America and also by Pope John Paul II, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. The fact remains that although we cannot verify the thesis that in the United States or anywhere in the world, the Calvinist ideology functions as an impetus, as an inspiration, as some sort of, correlated phenomena with the rise of capitalism in United States of America. But it cannot be denied that the same Protestant ideology of John Calvin represented in United States more forcefully by Benjamin Franklin became the nucleus around which the American politics, had operated after 1776 until now. What happened? Although the majority of economic institutions of United States of America since 1776 were primarily owned and managed by the Jewish community who had migrated from different European countries to United States of America. That is, the American economy or the Western European economy had nothing to do with the Protestant ethic of capitalism, Protestant ethic of Calvinism, but it cannot be denied at the same time that it led to the dominance of Protestant ideology in American politics in particular. As a result, in the history of United States, from the first president, George Washington, to the present president, Joe Biden, all the presidents except two were associated with the same Protestant, spirit, which John Calvin, Benjamin Franklin, or Max Weber was articulating. Therefore, Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism is terribly important to understand the dominance of Protestant ideology in American politics, because it is not even 0.1%. Since 1776 till 2021, all American presidents except two. And who are these two who are not Protestant? One is, of course, Barack Hussein Obama. And second was a Catholic president, very popular Catholic president, who was assassinated during his presidency, when he was president. I'm talking about John F. Kennedy. He was a very popular American president, like Barack Hussein Obama was. But it is fortunate that Barack Hussein Obama completed not one but two terms of 8 years. But he was not tolerated. Who? John F. Kennedy, and he was killed when he was on official tour within the United States of America. Therefore, the Protestant ideology which developed around Calvinist book, which is primarily a commentary like Luther's commentary on the Bible. This Protestant ideology of Calvin it more important and it is as good or bad as bad as the Shiite ideology of Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. Now Americans claim that Shiite or Islamic revolution in 1979 was a reversal of golden history of Europeans' perspective. But what was the rise of Protestant ideology in the United States of America? It was as fundamentalist as Iranian Revolution, or as fundamentalist as religious majoritarianism anywhere in the world. But they will point to others. For example, they will, criticize the issues of human rights in Asian countries like China or, Iran, or sometimes even India. But the human right is not very safeguarded in United States of America as well. Therefore, what I wanted to emphasize is that every book which is taught in any university is important, but it may have two functions. I am borrowing from R.K. Merton, Robert K. Merton, the manifest function and latent function. What was the manifest function of Talcott Parsons' decision to ban the English translation of Les Suicide by Durkheim, and the reverse publication of Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism by Max Weber? The one book was available in French, and the whole world was reading the book in the French language. But Parsons blocked, rather banned the publication English, translation of Suicide. But he not only got the unfinished manuscript of Max Weber published into the English language. You will be surprised to know who is the translator of Max Weber's unfinished manuscript on economy and society? Talcott Parsons himself. And since he was influential during the post-war American politics, he was a political advisor or economic advisor or academic advisor of three very influential American presidents. Therefore, he popularized this unintended book of Max Weber throughout the world, so far as English language is concerned. Therefore, the manifest function of the publication of Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism was to, distort, to misguide economic development in the third world and the second world by the chief priest of American establishment, Talcott Parsons. Unfortunately, today, Parsonian agenda has failed. Now, no scholar worth the name accepts the economic argument of Parsonian version of Max Weber in Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. But the latent function of the book had succeeded. Even before Talcott Parsons, even before Second World War, all American presidents were Protestant. They were from Protestant ethnic group, the majority of the American native population. Native in quotes, because they think that the original blacks are not natives, only the white Anglo-Saxon groups are, natives. Therefore, this book, Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, as a latent function, gave legitimacy, again a Weberian term, to the majoritarian rule of the Protestant voters or Protestant citizens of United States of America. But it could not, convert many third world countries or second world countries after the fall of the Berlin Wall to promote Protestant religion as secular religion, to promote Protestant spirit as the scientific spirit of development. Now, this understanding of my generation is primarily based on the alternative, theoretical apparatus provided by Karl Marx in Capital Volume 1. Had there been no capital, you would not have been able to, negate the Parsonian propaganda that unless and until the developing countries of the third world or the socialist countries of the second world convert to the Protestant spirit in the name of scientific spirit or secular spirit, there would have been no economic development at par with Western Europe or United States of America. Now, what we see today, China is an economic giant, much more stronger than United States of America so far as economy is concerned. But of course, from military point of view, United States remains much stronger with its NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Association, which includes majority of Western European countries, Japan, Turkey, Pakistan, etc. Therefore, Capital Volume 1 is not important for the academic activists associated with the Marxist ideology. Rather, every academic person should read Capital Volume 1 because it is worth reading. I am not denying that Max Weber's Economy and Society is also worth reading. I am not denying that professional, you know, ethics and civic morals is not important. If you want to understand the contemporary world, I mean post corona pandemic world, you will have to rely on the three foundational books: Professional Ethics and Civic Morals by Durkheim, again published after the death of Durkheim, Capital Volume 1 by Karl Marx, and Economy and Society by Max Weber. In case this course is still taught, although all three authors died much earlier. Marx died in 1883, Durkheim died in 1917, Max Weber died in 1920, and in 2021 we are still reading them. It is more for these three seminal works: Capital Volume 1, Economy and Society, and Professional Ethics and Civic Morals. But in India, the syllabus changes very, very slowly. And, in a compulsory course, you cannot take a qualitative jump and you can say that I will not teach what others teach in the world. Therefore, as a moderate teacher following middle path of the Buddha, I have been trying to give you my best understanding of the classics, which I have referred to, and this is my first introduction, and here I have tried to introduce the remaining 1/3 of the portion, and please read, in case it is possible for you to read Capital Volume 1. At least you read the introduction by Ernst Mendel in the Penguin Classics, or MacLennan in the Oxford book. In case you are unable to read because of paucity of time or technical reasons, because there are limitations of online teaching, then you can rely on my lectures. I will give two focused lectures on Capital Volume 1, and I will be dealing with the concept of base and superstructure next week, and then I will come to the concept of power and morality in Marx, Weber and Durkheim in the 3rd class next week, and then I will give again 2 lectures on this the following week. Thank you.